Welcome, everyone. We're going to give it a few more minutes for everyone else to funnel in. Welcome, everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We have around 50 attendees so far. I know we'll have some more funnel in, but we'll just go ahead and get started with introductions here. This webinar, we coordinate with the City of Cape Coral staff, and we appreciate their time in putting together this presentation to be able to just share this information with the membership so that things can hopefully improve for both the processes of the city and the permits and inspections. So we are looking forward to hearing the presentation from the city on common issues that come up with submitting permits and also with inspections. And I know most of you probably know, but I am Lynn Boldazar, the Executive Director of the Cape Coral Construction Industry Association. After the presentation, I will just give some of you some more information on the CCCIA. We do have, of course, members and non-members attending the presentation today. So I will follow that up once we finish with the presentation. And so the city has a few staff members here that will be presenting the information. And then once we get through the presentation, we will open it up for questions and answers. You do have the ability to type in questions in the chat box anytime during the meeting. So please feel free to do that. And then we will go over questions, and then you also have the ability to raise your hand and then be able to speak. Some people prefer to just type in the questions. Other people prefer to be able to speak. So we will do that once we get to the end of the presentation. But again, feel free to open up the chat and type in anything during the presentation as well. So I will go ahead and turn it over to Matt Grambow, the Interim Development Services Director for the City of Cape Coral.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy schedules this afternoon to participate in this webinar. These types of webinars and both virtual and in-person meetings that we have with the CCCI are really valuable. Lynn kind of talked about it in her introductory remarks, not only for city staff to be able to tell you what's happening and what we're seeing on our side of the equation, but also to receive your feedback and hear some of the challenges that you're facing or some of the frustrations or ideas for improvement that you can share with us. So it really is a collaborative approach to improving development, improving building within the city of Cape Coral. And your participation in events like this is what enables that to happen and enables us to get better at our jobs and to become more efficient as a team with you out in the field. So as Lynn said, my name is Matthew Grambow. I'm the Interim Development Services Director here at the City of Cape Coral. I'm also joined by Bogdan Cernak, our Interim Deputy Development Services Director, Josh Larson, our Interim Permitting Manager, and Shane Kinnendorf, our Building Official. So the structure of today's presentation is to kind of talk through some of the common issues that we see on our side of permitting and building reviews, inspections, and the permitting process. We'll have a permitting portion of the presentation followed by a building portion of the presentation that will discuss reviews and inspections. And then we'll leave plenty of time at the end of the presentation to answer any questions that you may have. So joining me today and the two cornerstones of our presentation, as I had mentioned, Bogdan Cernak, our Interim Development Services Deputy Director, and Shane Kittendorf, our Building Official. So Bogdan will be speaking primarily on the permitting side of the house, and then Shane will be discussing the building review and inspection side of the house. So with that said, thank you very much for your attendance today, and I really appreciate the flexibility that many of you have shown over the last couple of weeks, as I think we've had to reschedule this about 3 times due to the ongoing FEMA flood insurance project that we've all been pulled on to. But with that said, thank you very much, and I'm going to introduce Bogdan Cernak for a portion of the presentation on permitting.
Thank you very much, Matt. Good afternoon, everyone. Bogdan Cernak here. Thank you very much for attending this webinar. We're happy to have you here. Very happy about the kind of high turnaround, so appreciate your time, certainly. I want to mention something that Lynn actually started saying, that those webinars and those meetings and educational purposes are we're happy to make them and do them, but and they are designed to improve our systems and our processes with your feedbacks and everything else. But I'm happy to also tell you that we are very much gradually seeing a lot of improvements already with the amount of resubmits or amounts of errors that U.S. contractors are bringing to us. So there is an improvement, and we believe strongly that this is the reason why the improvement is, because we are communicating with you guys. We are making sure that both ways of communications are open, and we gradually also improve on our systems on our side. So to begin with, what I would like to start with is the first big items that we're seeing constantly. Matt, which one do I? Oh. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to talk about major, things that are happening constantly that we're seeing it. And throughout this presentation, Shane and I and Josh will be coming back to so many items together, because it starts with the Permitting Services Division at the Application Completeness Check, which we call it internally here ACC check. And then, of course, when we do our initial checks, we forward those documents for a rather scrupulous review as well, where other teams and teams of Shane, members of Shane teams are reviewing this more scrupulously. So we are, first line of services that check for components of the applications and initial errors, and then it goes to an in-depth of scrutiny and the plan review. So the first one is what we constantly seeing it, and we are seeing it despite so many things that we are educating the industry on, the energy calculations. As we all know, energy calculation is one of the required documents for single-family residence permits, and one of the main errors that is happening constantly is documents that are not containing the signatures on the document. And as we all know, there must be 2 signatures on this document. So you can see it prepared by and then the owner and agent, and any of those signatures are missing. Obviously, this is a first strike, and we would not be able to forward that document for review. So keep in mind, energy calculations, aside from everything else, they must be signed by 2 individuals, which is the one that prepares, and the second, which is the owner agent of that property. So make sure those 2 signatures are always available on this document. Moving on to the next one, we have a site plan and a drainage plan. And this is very common as well. We quite often seeing it missing or incorrect site address. And sometimes there is a missing lot, block, unit, or strap. And unfortunately, when those components of this particular document are missing, the documents then are not being forwarded for plan review, and they are being referred back to you, and a resubmit is required. So make sure whomever prepares those documents for you those informations are written on those site plans and drainage plans. Moving on to the next one, we have the famous Burrowing Owl affidavit, which it seems there are much more improvements right now about this form, on this form particularly, because we made this form rather easier right now, and we know made so many changes to the forms. And by the way, all those forms are available on our website, capecoral.gov, under I want to apply for permits, and then you go to that permit document center. And quite often you will see so many versions of different affidavits or papers. Pick the most with the most recent date, please, because we do have some problems with deleting the old forms, and sometimes you grab the first available, and that first available is not really the one that you really want to work on. So please take a look at the bottom of the page and read the revised date, and that the most recent one is the one that you should forward to us. So keep in mind that Burrowing Owl affidavit must be completed and signed by the applicant or duly authorized agent of the applicant of a building permit, and must be notarized. And as you can see on the screen right there, top rejections are unfortunately sometimes document is not notarized. Signer is not the authorized agent. The applicant of the permit is the contractor, not the applicant. And there are, of course, some missing information or incorrect information. And there is a misconception as well. Oh, my site did not have any burrowing owls. Perhaps I don't need a burrowing owl affidavit. No, you do need that burrowing owl affidavit for those permits as well. So make sure you have those documents available and completely corrected the way they should be. Moving on to the next one. This is a very interesting one. Recently, I had an email coming to me, and then, of course, one after another, about this seawall affidavit. And the question actually comes out to that a person who was inquiring about this document was actually making not the regular concrete seawall, but they were doing the alternative seawall. And they thought that when they are doing alternative seawall, they are not required to do the seawall affidavit. So let me tell you why we need a seawall affidavit. Obviously, when you are applying for a single-family residence, the city ordinance requires you to have a seawall on your property prior of starting the construction of the single-family residence. And the seawall is not only a concrete seawall, but there are a variety of seawalls, and one of them is also alternative seawall, but it's still called a seawall. And those seawalls, those alternative seawalls, are usually and can be done on what we call fresh water. Okay, so when you have a fresh water, you're not required to do the concrete seawall, but you can also do the alternative one. And that seawall affidavit also applies to it. So remember that seawall affidavits, whether it's for concrete seawall or for seawall alternative, may only be used if there is at least one vacant lot on either side of the construction site. Okay, so primarily and ideally, when we are accepting a SFR, which is single family residence permit, we are looking for seawall permits on file. If we can find it, then we are looking at the site itself and figuring out whether or not there is a build out property on one side or the other side. And you have the allowance here that if there's at least one vacant lot on either side of the construction, you can, in lieu of the actual seawall permits, which will be then submitted later by the seawall contractor, can submit that seawall affidavit, okay? But don't get wrong here, please make sure that this affidavit must be completed and signed by the property owner. A lot of times we are receiving a seawall affidavit signed by a contractor, and that is not what we're looking for. And for that matter, seawall affidavits are available, of course, on our website, and they specifically talk about who can sign the document, and we are still seeing corrections or errors in there. So missing on incorrect site address or lot, block, and strap unit, which goes across to all of the documents that we see missing. Then seawall affidavit cannot be used if either side of the site have been improved. So if you have building on one side and building on the other side already being developed, you are not allowed to use that seawall affidavit. And in such case, you must apply for a seawall permit first, then following up with the single family residence permit. So again, seawall affidavits in terms of concrete or alternative, those still apply for this affidavit, whether or not those two types of seawall are being built. So another one, and there is a great improvement in this right now. Recently, the truss layout. Obviously, we all know that truss layout must be acknowledged by the engineer of record. We call him EOR, that designed the house. But in many cases, we now seeing those together with the plans, and there is a acknowledgement by the EOR. We are moving forward. But the common rejections in that aspect is that stem, that is that EOR stem is missing from those plans. So make sure whenever trusses are being produced and forward to us, that EOR stem is included in that package. Moving on to final survey, which is also the one in connection to what we were discussing about site plans and drainage. Final surveys, the very important fact about them is they cannot be older than 1 year. And many times we are seeing them now recently. I mean, we understand they cost some money and whatnot, and sometimes they are being submitted here with a date older than 1 year. So make sure when you are submitting those documents, the document cannot be older or sealed rather than a year, 12 months. So the top rejections that we are seeing, of course, the same across the board: incorrect site address or block lot unit. And of course, the one that is that the survey must be sealed no later than a year ago. So pay attention to those aspects as well. Well, this is a big one. Obviously, we all know private provider and notice to building official. We call it NTBO. So many things going on in that form. Obviously, we are working, by the way, we are working on simplifying our forms right now. So soon you will see some improvements also on, them not being so complicated and being so much easier to complete and available to fill out online and whatnot. But NTBO must be signed by the property owner. The property owner is giving us the understanding and you the consent to use the private provider for their inspections, okay? So this is a so-called acknowledgement by the owner that they are okay with the builder opting out for city, instead of city inspections, to being done by the private provider. And if the fee owner is the LLC, then of course the LLC should be listed. What we are seeing is what's listed is not the LLC, but we are seeing the officer of the LLC or the president of the incorporation, or whatever the case may be, and that's not allowed. You have to list the LLC, which then it needs to be signed by the authorized member of that LLC. So that's number one. Number two is missing private provider plan compliance affidavit that needs to come together with that NTBO. And moving on, private provider inspection checklist, that also needs to come together with that package as well. So just pay attention. There are very, very broad instruction on private provider and policies on notice to building official. If you go to our website, capecoral.gov, under I want to apply for permits, go to Permit Document Center and in the search tab, type in private provider. You're gonna have at least dozen of instructions there and forms that will help you maneuver this process as well. So the next item, and I'm sure Shane will touch much more in depth about this topic, but please remember, top rejections from building plans, photocopies or reproductions of design professional seals are not accepted, okay? Each document must be digitally sealed, and all pages must have an address, block, containing the street, lot, block, and whatnot. Those pages must have those basic informations on it. Moving on to the next one, in remodel permits, and frequently later on, we are later now, well, actually now, we are receiving those remodel permits more than ever because of the FEMA regulations and what you've heard about, FEMA that we were dealing with for the last month or so. Top rejections for remodel permits right now is missing the elevation certificate or FEMA packet and for the property that is located at special flood hazard zone. So right now, you're probably gonna ask us questions about this, and this is one of the newest requirements as well, that FEMA packet must be submitted together with all those permits, actually, not only remodel permits, but all the permits that are located in the special flood hazard area moving on right now. So I'm pretty sure we're gonna get some questions about that too. So another top rejections from this type of permits of course, missing a scope of work. And what I'm going to tell you right now, for those who remember paper applications, we had this little line saying, to construct or something, if those that remembers. Then, of course, during change to electronic processes, we have the description line, and sometimes that description is very cryptic and only basic information by you are being included. But keep in mind, when you apply for a permit and when you start attaching files, you have also option to attach a scope of work, okay? So even if you believe that, some items might not be, needing a permit or whatever, please fill out that scope of work and let us know exactly what you're trying to do. And it really helps the review team to maneuver through the review process and help them rather not to guess what are you trying to do, but having it black and white on the form provided to them, what is being done. It helps also the application completeness check people to check, where this really needs to go. And if there are any initial questions that they can answer, they will definitely do it as well and help you out moving forward with this particular permit. So in conclusion right now, we have other common rejections, which it happened even though all permits right now are required to be applied electronically. We can still see that there are some incorrect permit types being applied for specific things. So just pay attention to what permits you're really applying for. Specifically, if you're having a third party sharing your passwords and whatnot, and that person or entity does not know what they're doing, just make sure that they are submitting in correct permit type and doing it correctly, because obviously when you submit that permit, you are required to pay the deposit, and often than ever, because of the volume of permits that we receive, as you all know, refunds are not refundable. And although we want to work with you and do work with you, for those common offenders that happens to apply for incorrect permits, lately we have been stopping the returning the fees and allowing the application to go correctly. So just pay attention to those. Make sure that you're applying for correct permit types, and we will avoid those that we need to avoid. And usually because of the duplicate permits. Unfortunately, the system is designed a way that you can apply for the same type of permit numerous times for the same parcel. And when we go and check the application completeness check and see 2 or 3 that are applying for the same, we would void the 2 newest one and leave the first one. And sometimes that's the case because a property owner could have changed their mind, could have gone with a different contractor. So just to avoid those, please pay attention to what you are submitting. And going on with the subcontractor form, this I'm gonna tell you guys, this is one of my biggest peeves here, subcontractor forms, and I am the biggest proponent, and I'm going to work with Shane and Matt on stopping this subcontractor problem that we currently have. As you all know, when you're going to a CO, by the end of the process, all of a sudden you're noticing that the subcontractors are not attached. As it is my big recommendation, please always attach a subcontractor to your permit at the time of inception of the permit when you're applying for it. You have all the rights to change the contractor during the process or during the course of the construction or during the permit being live, okay? But you're gonna have that contact name in there regardless. If you need to change it, then of course you can send us the form and we'll be happy to change those things. But to avoid the delays, and we are seeing lots of delays unfortunately due to that, we would be happy to accept those subcontractor forms at the beginning rather than at the end. So if you can, please give us a hand here and start submitting those forms at the get-go. All right, the team from Certificate of Occupancy Group that is working on COs forwarded me the list of things that I'm constantly seeing as well. And I put this into a slide because it's really important. The time when the CO is being requested is the crucial time for you guys to have it done, as soon as possible. Perhaps there are either even timeframes that we need to oblige by and make sure those documents are processed in a timely fashion, and then the CO is being issued. But if we don't have help from you or clear, intentions of being able to help us, unfortunately, we have nothing else but to rejecting your permits, and then they go back to the same queue at the end, and you guys need to wait for another time for us to process them. So keep in mind, as I was mentioning, number one problem area at the CO desk right now is missing subcontractor form. I would say 60%, right, Josh? 60% of rejections right now. That's why my biggest plea right now to you. The biggest rejections are missing subcontractor form, okay? Missing subcontractor is listed as the contact, but the form, the signed form is missing as an attachment as well. So that is not allowed to. Make sure that the form is there as well. Elevation certificate, and we can talk about this forever, guys. Elevation certificate. Either sometimes we receive the elevation certificate as final, but the elevation certificate under construction hasn't been even passed. Okay, so pay attention to those as well. Final drainage surveys as well. Make sure you're submitting them way ahead of time for us to keep our dates and help us there. Because as you know, we have people that are on vacation, we have people that are doing so many other things, and just submitting those ahead of the game would really, really help us out. And of course, the infamous revisions. And we make some progress in there, but we are also slacking there, I can admit, sometimes because of due to the volume and whatever other things that are there. And revisions are extremely important. Do not wait for the inspection to happen to inspector to tell you, hey, this is incorrect, okay? And you need to file the revision. You know what you're doing, and you need to be submitting those forms prior. And if you have an urgent revision, and I call them urgent for specific reasons, urgent revisions are for, let's say, changing in NOAs, garage doors, anything like that. Those are, I would call, still a revision, but I'll call them rather a simple revision. So if you're submitting a revision, give us a call and let us know, hey, I have this simple, NOA garage door or something, and we will definitely accommodate the swift review and move your request for CO to process quicker. So at this time, Permitting Services Division side of repetitive errors and things, I'm done with them right now. Hopefully that was a little bit of educational. We are here for any questions, staying here while Shane will present here, and be happy to answer any of the questions. And of course, we are always available and accessible by email or telephone. Thank you, guys.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is building official Shane Kindor. This afternoon, we're going to talk about repetitive inspection failures and plan review rejections. I have a multitude of different things, and I can talk hours on this topic. I'm going to try not to. We're going to try to keep it as simple as possible, but get to the points. All right, so the first item that we're looking at has to do with flood vents. The installing hydrostatic vents in the walls, overhead garage doors, in the side garage doors, and when not approved per the product approvals and NOAs aforesaid. Florida Building Code R322.2.2 is a critical area to read into that section. Talks about the special flood hazard area and requirements with regards to flood vents and openings and garage. And that entire section is critical with over 52,000 structures located in the special flood hazard area and 70,000 lots. This is a very important section to pay attention to. Some of the things that we come across out in the field is people trying to make their own items up, which creates an issue. You see up in the right-hand corner, they cut a porthole into the wall, added 2 PVC pipes, and then they went ahead and put two dryer vent exhausts over the top. This is not an approved flood vent system. We definitely want to pay attention to these type of non-engineered flood openings. On your left-hand side, you have a beautiful engineered flood vent right there, but the issue that we see is that electric panel is actually below the base elevation and is not acceptable, and that whole system had to be redone and elevated to the right finished floor elevations. So it's imperative as we're going through these exercises and we're installing these structures or systems, your mechanical, electrical, plumbing equipment, that those are getting installed properly with these flood vents. Going to the next page, we can see that we have an engineered flood vent that is activated because of flood. But on the left-hand side, this is the area where I talk about the side hinge man doors and the garage door, that they went ahead and just took these vents and installed into the system. But these doors and side door were not designed to accept said system. So it would render these products in non-compliance and have to be completely redone again. So it's important to make sure that if you're installing a garage door and you need to have flood vents installed, that you make sure that the manufacturer has a system that would allow the installation of said product. Moving on to our next, it goes slow, there we go. We're gonna talk about the energy calculations. We've been seeing lately the HVAC manufacturer does not match doesn't match what was submitted originally. The insulation that has been installed doesn't match what the calculations are showing, even if it's a better system, that we need to have a revision to reflect. So for example, you have mechanical equipment and the contractor says, oh, I don't have one type, but I'm going to give you another type. We need to have a revision of plans to make sure that that equipment meets the calculations that are being performed. And then the other is, let's say your energy calcs call for an R19, but you installed an R30 and you wanted to enhance that, or you went from a blown system to a spray foam system on the deck. That completely changes the energy calcs, and we want to make sure that that information is presented properly on the energy calculations. So it's critical that when you make these changes, that we get revisions for these documents, which is considered amended construction documents. Moving forward, we talk about Florida product approvals. The Florida product approvals are not on site and or do not match what was installed. Again, the same as the energy calculations and amendment as such. Florida product approvals are critical to make sure that we are reviewing based on the tested system. Be it for roofs, windows and doors, garage doors, flood vent openings, things of that nature, we got to make sure that the proper product approval is on the job site and that the team is able to review for compliance with that information. You may have a roof system. A roof system product approval may have 5, 10, 15 different types of tested systems, and we want to make sure that the proper system is listed and provided, that we know which system is approved to be installed. The same for windows and doors, garage doors, and alike. We want to make sure that that information is complete. We do allow a part of your initial submittal that you can submit 2 or 3 product approval line items for a certain type of windows. So let's say you have a CGI window, but that's not available. You could have had like a PGT or another type, a Genuine window on that list, and you can choose out of those 3 right there. But let's say you didn't use any of the 3 and you want to use something different. You need to submit a revision to plans. But instead of submitting the entire list, only submit the specific product approval of which is being revised. It saves a lot of time and heartache with the team having to go back and look at 30 different product approvals versus only the 1 product approval or 2 product approvals that you are revising. Moving forward, overhead garage doors, manufacturers' design pressures may exceed the engineering requirements, but the door installed does not meet the approved door according to the product approval. Again, as I just alluded to a couple slides ago, let's say you have a Clopay door, a Clopay door, part of the initial plans, but that wasn't available, and the subcontractor came out and he installed DAB doors. We got to make sure that those documentation are coming in and getting reviewed and approved. One of the recent issues that the inspectors are out there in the field are finding is water closets, lavatories, and not like we have bidets, but there are some of them out there. But the concern is the proper distance separation. Your fixtures from a wall is required to be 15 inches. We've had several occasions where the fixtures that are installed at 12 inches, or the toilet that's installed is installed at 14 inches or 13 inches. It's imperative as you're installing your material into these systems, your fixtures, that they are meeting compliance to the code. many occasions I'm being called out and saying, hey, I have this issue, I need you to resolve it and accept it the way it is. That is not the case. We have to meet minimum code compliance. If you're doing an interior alteration of a home and you're pulling out the vanity and you're putting a new in, and you found this beautiful larger vanity, it's imperative that when you're going to do that installation, that vanity being installed still maintains that 15 inches to either side of that water closet, making sure that you have a total of 30 inches for that water closet. So just pay attention to that. That has been a recent trend of issues that have been making to my plate and my inspectors' plates, and they've been bringing it to me saying, hey, we have these issues, and the contractors asking forgiveness and allowing us to maintain something that's not code compliant. Secondary means of egress. It's critical that we maintain the minimum net clear openings in each of these dimensions, be it your 24 inches in height or your 20 inches in width. With that understanding, it's your 5.7 square feet on the second floor or third floor, and then 5 square feet if you're on the ground level. When you're doing retrofit of windows, make sure that you are meeting these compliant items as you're going through that exercise. But it's important that this is properly sized opening, especially when you're dealing with your secondary means of escape out of your bedrooms. Another item that we deal with is windowsills. On many occasions, we're having windowsills in residential construction that the sill height to the opening is less than 24 inches. If that is the case, and the outside fall drop is more than 72 inches, it's imperative that you have an approved lock mechanism that restricts the opening to 4 inches. Now, that being said, let's say you have this in the bedrooms. Well, that lock mechanism has to be in place to prevent a person from falling out that window because the sill height is below that 24 inches and over 72 inches fall on the outside. But it has to be removable in case there is emergency. So pay attention to that you are following the guidelines to that compliance methodology, but at the same time, making sure that mechanism is a tested ASTM F290 2090 product, but that it can be removed in case of an emergency. Moving on, we have our shower areas, our door swings and shower areas. We have these beautiful glass enclosures that we're installing in these houses, and we find that the contractor is installing the glass enclosure to only swing into the shower area. This is not accepted. It's imperative that the doors swing out, or if you have a door swing, that it can swing in both directions. As I show it in the picture there, it's imperative that the door doesn't swing in. And the reason being is, let's take a person of my size, 6'3", 300 pounds, I'm a big guy, and I happen to fall into that shower, and the door only swings in. How does somebody get into that shower to try to help without breaking glass? That's ultimately the only path you have at that point if the door is swinging in the wrong direction. So it's imperative that per code that door swings out. The other item we have here is your clean out, making sure that clean out is 18 inches away from the structure. This allows the opportunity to gain access to it and clean or snake the system as needed. So it's important when you're following compliance with the code that you maintain that 18 inches away from the structure. Moving on, kitchen outlet spacing. I can't stress enough the importance to make sure that we're meeting compliance that many occasions. The outlet spacing is not meeting compliance, and we want to make sure that is compliance. Yes, I do understand that a plan review at this moment in time for your mechanical, electrical, and plumbing is not happening, but it's imperative that even though that this isn't happening, you have to meet code. And we are looking at this for the future, but at this moment in time, we got to make sure that you are providing and meet compliance to the code. In regards to legibility, many occasions, as you can see the picture on the right-hand side, I couldn't tell you what it is. It's just a bunch of gray lines and hazy stuff. On many occasions, we receive documentation and that looks like this. So it's important that when you're uploading the information that you're not uploading a copy, or if you are uploading a copy like a product approval, make sure that you're uploading a clean version or an original version versus something that has been copied 5, 10, 15, 20 times. And also when you're talking about the plans itself, we need to make sure that they're being properly signed and sealed, or digitally signed and sealed with a third-party validation for the architect and engineers that are out there. It's imperative that we have validated products. Recently, we have had a short kick of manipulating documents where the contractors have taken the approved stamp from a previous document and have applied it to another document that hasn't made it through the revision process yet. And these are being looked at because in our system, we can recognize the date, we can look at the information, and we can see that you have not submitted the revision. So our inspectors are starting to catch this out in the field. And it's imperative that if you're going to falsify and commit fraud in this nature, I will be looking at your license as a contractor. We need to make sure that we are maintaining a high level of integrity, and as a licensed professional, it is imperative that you are maintaining that licensure as a professional and not committing that type of haste decision to add stamps to make it look like we've approved a set of documents. So it's imperative that you do it right. And I have 3 different contractors right now that documents have made it to my desk to look at. So I can't stress the importance that maintain the integrity of that license and make sure that if you have staff and that they're trying to slide something by, that they do it right. Moving forward, GFCI protection, again, with many vacations where the guys go out to do the inspection, the GFCIs are not working properly, they come out with their testers. It's just as easy as the electrician to do their testers. Our guys should not be going out there at the final inspection and finding that the outlet wasn't wired properly. This is a very simple process. The electrical contractors out there, make sure that your crew members are testing the system and that we're not failing you for something as simple as this. Hood exhaust, smooth chamber versus coiled. The Florida Building Code requires smooth chamber systems. When you go to purchase a hood system, on occasions they come with a coil system. In other states, this may be allowed. In the state of Florida, it is not. It is imperative that we have a smooth chamber system. On many of our hoods that are being installed in these single family homes, they actually have a cover, a protective cover or a decorative cover that goes on top of it. The team is requesting that you remove that cover so they can see that it is a smooth wall system and not a coil system. So please make every effort to go through that. I actually myself went on a job site to walk for one of the contractors, and the inspector requested that the covers be removed. And on one of them, I went out to the back patio area where they had the grill and they had a hood system, and you can actually see through the vents at the top that they installed a coil system to that outside. And we went back inside and we're looking at the system, beautifully decorated, enclosed, encapsulated system. We requested the installer to go up and take a picture down the shaft. Lo and behold, they installed a coil system versus a smooth wall system per code compliance. So it's imperative that we install smooth chamber systems and not coil systems, because that beautiful work that you've done, I don't want to request you to tear it apart. Okay, so if you do it right the first time, we're not requiring you to tear things apart again. So let's look at this and make sure that we're installing the proper material in compliance with the code. Private providers. One of the things that we're having in plan review, when you're submitting in your documentation, make sure that you're following 1 or 2 processes when you're approving that document. Make sure that you're either stamping all the plans of which that you have reviewed and approved, or a part of your affidavit that you're listing every single document that you have reviewed and approved. On many occasions, we're getting an affidavit, but that affidavit doesn't give me any information that tells me that you reviewed any of these documentation, because the affidavit says, hey, I reviewed and approved set of plans that are part of this package, blah, 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 but it doesn't tell me the specific documents. So it's better in many occasions that you apply your stamp to the plans, because it makes it clear and we can see that you have done your performance on your side of the fence. This goes the same for any revisions or resubmits. just make sure that you are applying your prior provider stamp, or if you're providing an affidavit and you're putting that information there, that the information provided is clear and legible. In regards to inspections, Bogdan touched on this 2 seconds, where the prior provider is turning the final and the under construction at the same time. It is imperative during the course of construction, as a prior provider, that you make sure that the contractor and the contractor is just the same, being located in a special flood hazard area. And I see I have a misspelling there, and I do apologize for that. That you turn in your under construction elevation certificate prior to going vertical. I can't stress this enough. We have 5 projects right now. They came in at the CO. They didn't do an under construction elevation certificate. They submitted at the final, and these 5 projects do not meet compliance to the finished floor elevation. What happens when we get to the final with that? We unfortunately have to tell you, you can't do this. You're going to have to take the entire structure and either tear it down or elevate it one way or another. We don't want to be that person, so it's imperative that we get this information in advance. Last page, but not least, just to keep it simple, let me just make sure, blank pans, waiting the last, okay. Before I get further on these last couple items, do not wait until the last minute, the last second to submit in revisions. You know, during the course of construction, things are changing. You've changed equipment, you've changed windows and doors, you've changed a multitude of different things. Get the revisions in advance so we can assist to get you out. We don't want to be the one to say, hey, you're calling us the last minute, the last second, you're desperate, you have to close. It's a Thursday and you have to close by Friday. The homeowner's not, or the proposed owner doesn't have a place to live. They're going to be out on the street. You know in advance that there are changes that are occurring. Please help us help you get the information in so we can help get your products moving forward in a smooth manner. That being said, the last 4 items on the list for today, landscape bushes that are not meeting 18 inches tall, our inspectors that are out there are seeing that for the last landscaping. Very simple, please make that happen. Your exterior slopes, making sure that your slopes aren't exceeding a 4-to-1 slope. Take a look at that, especially larger houses that are going from property line to property line. Your side yards are the parts that will be triggering that 4-to-1 slope, so make sure that you're looking at that information. Guards around pools with an elevation change of more than 30 inches. This happens a lot on canal lots. You're installing this beautiful pool and you're providing a walk around that pool, but you have no guards on the outside. It is imperative that that information is provided and that your guards for fall protection are installed. Please don't wait until the last minute, the last second for us to catch it because we're doing a pool enclosure inspection or a pool final and it's not there and we're having to fail you for something that you are already aware of to make sure that we're protecting life and property for that. And last but not least, means of egress. We have gone through a trend of 32-inch clear opening doors that are required for your primary means of egress, and that they're coming in at 31.5, 31.75. 32 inches clear means 32 inches clear. If you have a 34-inch or a 36-inch or a 38-inch or a 48-inch, beautiful. But don't come in and give me a 31 3/4 door and say that I need to accept it. Again, please make sure the minimum compliance is 32 inches clear and that we're meeting compliance to that. So go with the larger 36-inch door with the roof opening and making sure that you maintain that clear means of egress right there. This finishes my portion or segment of the discussions, and I'll hand it back over to Matt Greenville.
All right, well, thanks everyone for your attention during our structured form portion of the presentation here. I'm gonna try to change my windows here a little bit so we can see some of the questions that are coming in. Let me have a second here. I may need to stop doing the screen share for this presentation itself. Let me see what we've got here. Okay, I've got our webinar chat open and I see a hand up on Lynn's screen. So Lynn, I'm not sure how you wanna structure the questions and the Q&A here, but we are available here for the next 41 minutes for anyone that has any questions.
Yeah, we've got about 60 participants here online. So at this time, please feel free to use the Q&A at the bottom of the screen. You'll see that when you hover over the bottom. As well as feel free to raise your hand, and we'll be able to unmute you to ask any questions. So I see we got a comment. It says from Laura Fragapane, and that says notice of commencement and the subcontractor attachment form. These forms on the website are broken and we can't open them to use them. Can someone correct this, please?
So one of the big things that we have here, Bogdan brought up once before, is sometimes we have some issues on the website of not being able to remove some things. And this will go also with your links. If you have a saved shortcut to the Permit Document Center, it'll lead you to some of these old documents. One of the things that you'll really want to do is each time you go in there, go to the capecoral.gov website. At the top of your screen, select I want to. And when you hover over that, it'll open up a green screen, and on the right or left hand side of that, under Apply For, select Permits. And when that opens up, there'll be the Permit Document Center. If you follow through that link and get the most updated information, you should not have any broken links within that pathway. But if you're using a saved shortcut, there's a very good chance it's been updated and it hasn't updated on your shortcut.
And our IT department and communications department are aware of the issues with like outdated information and broken links. We are working with them to address some of the issues that people are experiencing. You know, please feel free to reach out to us if you ever have trouble getting access to a form, or if you're noticing that something's broken. We do report these instances to our IT team and to our communications department, who are responsible for maintaining and monitoring the website on a regular basis. So if you ever notice something like this, please let us know, and we'll try to get it addressed as quickly as possible.
Okay. Dominique Sierra has a question here. I work for the engineering department at LCEC. We currently email our documentation to Lori Taylor to create a permit for us. Will that process change to where we input all the information, or will that process stay as is?
That's.
I think we would need to know what type of permit they are submitting. Is that?
Utilities, those are utilities.
I think Michelle always has.
No, that's not.
So Dominique, we'll have to look into precisely what Lori's current process is. I know it's a little bit of a unique situation with the LCEC and the Redways. So I can follow up with her. I mean, we don't have anything proposed to change that type of process. But if you want to email me directly, or I can follow up with Lori and let you know if there's any process change that's on the horizon. But to the best of my knowledge, nothing is changing regarding LCEC permitting.
Okay. Another question, is Cape Coral adding a fill cell inspection?
I will look into that, but that should already be something that's in place. If that's something that's missing off the inspections, I'll follow up with my chief plan detainer and make sure that the plan reviewers are adding the fill cell inspection and making sure that the inspectors are following up and performing said inspections.
Okay. Another question. If there's been a recent change in ownership and change hasn't reported on property records, WeChat is the best document to submit to city, so there is no rejection, question mark?
The best document is to forward us the warranty deed. And the only caveat to that is that warranty deed must be recorded. So if you have a warranty deed seeing and making, that are showing us the changes, make sure that the warranty deed is recorded with that, recording at the top of the document, and submit that document to us with the all the information.
And that applies for LLCs and other entities
Right.
besides ownership names.
Private residents and whatever the case may be. It takes time, LIPA takes their time, and it also takes times for LIPA system to forward that to our system. So, you know, it used to be, 7 to 10 days. Now we're seeing something more than that. Or sometimes they're even faster, but that's really depending on, who records it and how they put it into the system. But having a warranty deed is the document that will suffice for those.
Okay, thank you, Bogdan. Yes, this presentation that the city has with the slideshow will be emailed out here shortly after this meeting ends. Another question for the final survey that needs to be, no less than 1 year, is that for a new build only? Or is that required for all permits, including remodels, cages, pools, etc.?
So it is definitely required, 1 year old must not be older than 1 year old for the single family residence permit. Now, for other permits, such as remodels, cages, or pools, final surveys are not required, okay? So I'm pretty sure the guest here is talking about site plans that we are sometimes seeing it, or rather final surveys that we are seeing in lieu of site plans. All right, so if that's the case, if you are attaching something for a remodel permit that requires a site plan, it shouldn't rather be a final survey, it should be a site plan, all right? So to go back to your question, yes, for the SFR, single family residence, that final survey must not be more than 1 year, but for any other permits, such as the one that you included in your question, remodel, cages, or pools, final surveys is not the required document, but what's required is the site plan, all right? And really that site plan does not really matter whether it's 1 year old or even older than that, as long as it's current in terms of showing the property, showing all structures on the property, and proper setbacks to the property lines as well. So I think that should suffice the answering this question. Do not mix final surveys with site plans. That's probably a common thing here.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the options to choose from, hold on. The options to choose for the forms to upload to a permit, there is none for other any longer. And now there has been confusion. Not quite sure.
Hope, because this is your question, I'm pretty sure you know what you're referring to. Sometimes when you want to add a specific document, that document is not listed in the attachment section. So you might have difficulties to figure out where and under what category or under what name to submit those documents. The best advice I could give you is if you are trying to attach something and that category is not listed, I would rather not attach under anything else that this is designated for, okay? The worst or the best case scenario out of the worst that can happen is if you're going to attach something which does not correspond to the category that you are applying for, many of those documents are not being even reviewed by us. So when you attach something under whatever random category, we might not even get to it. And after a month or so, you'll be calling or emailing me trying to figure out what happened to this document and why it wasn't reviewed. Simply because the answer is we are not reviewing those type of documents any longer. So if you have a problem where you're trying to upload something and you don't have that category listed, give us a call. Give permitting a call. We will let you know how to submit it, where to submit it. Perhaps we can allow you to send this via email, which we rarely do, but for instances such as, things like that, we can make exceptions. So just stay in touch with us, see if something corresponds to it. And as a general, to all of you who listens to this presentation, when you're uploading something randomly, I'll say, for the lack of a better word, and documents that are not corresponding to their reflected items on EnerGov or tiles, we call them tiles. Often, never ever, they are ending not being processed because we simply are not notified about them even being in the system. And the system only triggers those notifications to us for those documents that are required for review for this particular permit. So if you're submitting, an HVAC sheet or worksheet for an electrical permit, that will not even trigger any action. So we would not even go for it. I just gave you an example, and I know I hope you know what I'm trying to say. Always make sure that you are submitting and uploading documents that corresponds to the tiles that you are sending to us. And if you are having problems, permitting line is available, give them a call, they can walk you through and tell you exactly where to attach the document. And that way, it's very important here, that way you are saving yourself a tremendous amount of time. Because like I said before, you are uploading something incorrectly today, we are not being notified about it for whatever amount of time at all times, okay? You are sitting thinking that we are having delays, okay, and we are not processing it because of delays. And then a month later, you are getting anxious and now trying to find out, calling us and letting you know that, hey, I'm sorry, we didn't even see it. But you are one behind right now. So it's better to give the call at the very beginning, and then moving forward, we can guide you and let you know what to do and move that entire documents for review.
Thank you, Bogdan. Another question, is Cape Coral going to add the electrical, plumbing, HVAC final inspections on the inspection list?
This has been a topic of discussion as we work through the CO request. We will be looking at adding the electrical, plumbing, and mechanical final inspections to such this way we can make sure that instead of having a final CO inspection, that inspector goes out there and fills everything at one, we can at least be able to sign off an electrical or a plumbing or mechanical, and we don't have to come back and re-inspect those portions of that project. So yes, that is in the works. I don't have an activation date, but we will send an NTI to industry when it comes to fruition.
Do you have an anticipated quarter that might be available, fourth quarter this year? First quarter next year or sometime?
I'm hoping sooner than later, Lynn. But with the FEMA coming in, that's really backlogged us a little bit dealing with that side of the fence. So hopefully we can get through this FEMA exercise that we're going through, and then we can try to get back to a normality here in the very near future.
Okay. Okay, and this is a statement, not a question. I can appreciate attempting to open up the lines of communication. Zoom is huge for those of us in the field, but the term just reach out in theory works, is supposed to work, but the actual execution does not. There are glitches when submitting permit applications. Our permits get held up because of a glitch, and such as hold for an NOC that is in fact not needed. I have an example and can reach out privately. I will say that, the great part about the Cape Coral Construction Industry Association is that when you are a member, in fact, when you reach out to me, I am able to reach out directly to the staff. So when the city's kind of, referring to that, that's probably part of it. Of course, they will definitely answer you as time permits when you reach out to them directly, but that's the purpose of, us having this webinar. This is part of that reach out. So I would encourage you to visit our website, or I can even send you a link to our application, and you will have probably a little bit better results.
And Lynn, I want to add to it as well. And Chris, if you want to reach out to me, by all means, you probably know my number, give me a call so we can talk about this. But I want to just talk in general about this. and this is in connection to my previous answering some of the questions for Hope. As much as we would, love to be perfect and aspiring to be that way, sometimes there are obstacles that are standing in front of us that we cannot overcome, okay? So a hold, for example, here, you're referring to a word hold. Sometimes when you're applying for a permit, the hold may populate, okay? And it will be that red thing showing, oh, there's a active hold on the property and whatnot the case may be. That already alerts you and you're not proceeding. But what we encourage you to do is to check that hold itself, okay? Because a lot of those holds are not holds, all right? Unfortunately, the way the system is designed, we cannot use any other word, any other term other than hold, okay? And if there is a hold on it, I can guarantee that at least 70% of times, it's not a hold. It's sort of an informational, statement or alert rather, that it's really designed for internal staff to, look at it and see what it's being done in for this particular property. So I encourage you to check what the hold is for, and like I said, in many instances, that hold will not stop you from proceeding or from submitting the application. So please review that hold and then try applying for a permit. If it really is indeed a hold, an actual hold, then obviously you'll need to speak to a staff to find out how and why this hold is there and how it can be removed. But like I said, it's we wanted our IT department to change this name for any other type of things, but it's impossible. Okay, we've tried, and unfortunately, this is not possible to change it. So until something can be done, or we are, I don't know, in better universe, the hold phrase term will stay there. Now, another point to your message, Chris, about the NOC. And I was mentioning to you, and I hate to use that term so often, but I have to use it. The way the system is designed, it does have glitches, and you mentioning about them at the beginning of your question, does have glitches, and unfortunately, even sometimes when you're doing something by the book, you are opening a permit, you're uploading a document, and everything seems to be so fine that the document is sitting there, but for whatever amount of time, and I'm going to give you a hint here, for, let's say, if you don't see any action on that submittal or on that document for, I would say 7 days, it's a very safe time frame, 7 business days, okay? I would encourage anyone to give us a call, okay, guys? We hate to take a blame for the system design, and unfortunately, that's very often, but your engagement here after you're submitting, and I understand I'm asking you for maybe just a little bit more, but if you do want your document pushed, that you are observing sitting there for more than 7 business days, and that's a very good time frame, because a majority of our documents right now, from the initial standpoint, are being reviewed within 3 to 5 business days. And if we are going over 5 and encroaching to 7 more business days, that should be an alert for you as well, okay? That should be something, hey, there's something going on, I'm not sure, let me give them a call, okay? Now, I'm not encouraging you to give me a call after a day or 2. Please do not do that, because we need to have time allowed for our processes. But if you see something greater than 7 business days for applications, for documents that are for applications, not for the review, guys, again, this is something outside of the review thing, then give us a call to permitting, and we can see what is really happening. And lastly, I want to admit, we have some 30 permit technicians, okay? And, we train them all, and we rely on their hard work every day, but they are only humans, okay? And when a employee is assigned to, I don't know, 500 items a day, okay? And that employee misses that one NOC, and it happens to be yours, it's only something that a human can do. And we do apologize for it, but I'm sure you do have employees too, and you know how that works. And, constructive criticism is always something we're looking for and we're improving, but also that's the factor too. So if you're seeing something that is not sitting well, do not wait a month. Do not wait until CO needs to be submitted. Do not wait till the last hour, 5 to 12, and then give us a call. Because that just already, enlarged the problem itself. And that could be avoided by a simple call a few days after. All right, thank you.
Yeah, I see a couple more of your messages, Chris, and I think Bogdan answered those, and I will get you an application for the membership. Okay, next question here. Once a builder submits the house permit, how long is the approval process?
So, well, if you have a perfect submission and there's no reason for rejections or anything like that, it can take up to 30 business days to get that approval out. We try to, of course, through the all steps, get it out quicker than that, of course, but it all depends on how many we've received and what our workload is. But that's what it can be, as much as 30 business days.
So guys, I'm looking at the last report that we produced, the building activity report, and I encourage anyone who's sitting on this presentation today to look at this report carefully as well. That report gives you an indication of what Joshua just mentioned, how and when can you expect your permit to be released, right? And there is one page that shows the best case scenario and the worst case scenario, okay? I'm actually on this page right now and I'm looking at the April 2024 report, and it shows best case scenario for single family residence permit was done within 11 days in month of, actually, I'm looking at it right now, it's actually 6 days in the month of April, okay? So the perfect single family residence permit was approved and released within 6 business days in the month of April. In the month of March, we took 13 days. Of course, that fluctuates. But let me tell you this, the worst case scenario that it was 103 days, all right? So
Can we clarify, the 103 days is the multiple back and forth,
yes,
comments?
absolutely.
Just wanted to make sure that was understood, that it's not 103 days that it's sitting in our queue, but it's 103 days total of, it came into us within 15 or 20 days, we turned it around with comments, they went back to the contractor took 10 to 15 days to turn it back in, it came back in, we processed it within that 10 the 15 days from that point, and reviewed, and hopefully there was no comments, but we've had those occasions to where we've had to go back and forth because there was just that miscommunication. And on many occasions after that second review time, please don't hesitate to reach out to that plan reviewer and get a communication going with that plan reviewer to prevent for that project to come in and having to take that 103 days. So that's just something to put out there.
But let me tell you, our average for single family residents actually for the past year, okay, our documented average for issuing a single family residence permit is 13.8 days, okay? So that gives you an indication of how soon you can have your house permit being issued.
And I'll go ahead and include that report when I send out the link to this presentation. So you guys have that. Another question, based on the requirements for product approval and e-calc update, is there any additional support or priority from the city to get these revised for CO inspection?
The answer is yes. When you submit those in, please don't hesitate to reach out to the team. Once we're aware that these are coming in and you're looking for a product approval or a energy calcs, staff will immediately push it back to the plan reviewers and they will get it taken care of ASAP.
But then again, guys, and I hate to contradict what Shane just said, yes, we are here to help. But keep in mind, energy calculations, usually those are revisions, okay? And if you have any changes to windows or whatnot, the case may be, those revisions may take a little bit longer. Okay, yes, simple product approval, garage doors, NOAs and whatnot, we are happy to expedite them and give them the priority track. But for something more of a nature that is now presented to us 2 days before CO, we still are required by going in the order which we receive documents. So not everything can be in the same category, okay? Just because it's ready for CO and you waited 2 months for it to send us the revisions for whatever data you have changed, that does not mean we automatically going to assume this a priority or expedite tracking, okay? And we don't even hear our process internally, we are really withholding from saying expedited, okay? We are trying to work with in the industry and provide the best service possible, but ultimately the line goes here. Everybody is treated equally and we work in the order in which documents are received, okay? But where we can, we love to extend our help and get things done faster. But keep in mind that, not everything qualifies for that type of extent.
But kind of dovetailing off what Bogdan just said, when we get close to CO, I mean, your projects are also our projects in a certain extent, from permit application through CO. So we like to see these projects get wrapped up as well and get them to CO, get them off of our plate. We always have a big CO push at the end of every calendar year where people are working over Christmas trying to get your COs done to get people into their homes in the holidays. So it is a priority for us, but again, this is a help us help you situation, and the more ahead of the CO date or closing date that you can get us information, the better all of us are going to be at the end of the process.
Okay, another question. Do we have a plan to decrease timeframe reviews on documents and final inspections? I've had documents pending for weeks and then trigger finals, and then there are dates scheduled for those final inspections and weeks go past those dates, sometimes skipped altogether.
So I'm gonna leave a room for Shane to talk about inspections and timeframes for that final inspections. But in terms of documents required to be reviewed, I talked in length about this topic moments ago. Keep in mind that if you are saying that I have documents pending for weeks, that is already an indication that there is something going on, okay? Please do not let this sit for weeks. And as I told you before, if you see documents that need to be in review, forwarded for review, and it's been more than 7-10 business days, if you're waiting for weeks, you're hurting yourself, okay? Do not wait that long, and then give us a call. 7-10 business days is a safe time frame to give us a call to find out, hey guys, is there something going on, or I should know something, or did something wrong, or you guys, slacking there, here and there. So we'll be happy to look at it. At each situation is different. Each permit is different. So make sure that you do not allow yourself to sit on a document for weeks, and only then, after weeks or so, months, give us a call and trying to figure out what happened and rush to the end of the line. So from that perspective, just, monitor your CSS account, see what's the progress, and is there a progress or is there a hold? And then, give us a call so we can maneuver and help you out together. If Shane want to add something about it?
So in looking at that question, it seems like we're getting towards the end of our project and we're looking for a CO request. And there may on occasion times where it comes in for a CO request, the team will review the information and they'll send back the information to the contractor to say, hey, we're deficient on items here, we need to get that information. The challenge that we have with it is that they have 48 hours to address these items and then schedule final inspections. So within 48 hours, they review the documentation, they find that there's deficiencies, and they can't schedule the final inspections until those deficiencies of those items are addressed. But then they come back in, the resubmittal occurs, and then it has to wait for 48 hours. And then they review again to make sure that they got all the information. And again, they have incorrect information. It goes back to the contractor again to update the correct information. And then it comes back in again, it goes another 48 hours through the process. And I think that's what I'm seeing, where now you're 6 days into it or 8 business days into a process because we're waiting to get the the final documentation completed and corrected before those final inspections can get done. It's definitely important that when you're turning in that final documentation, that if you're utilizing the prior provider, that the prior provider is providing the complete list of inspections, and that they're providing a property notice of completion form. In addition, if you have your termite treatment, your compaction, your elevation certificate, your survey, that you're verifying that the proper addressing is on all the documentation. On many of the occasions, the wrong addressing is on the documentation is coming in, and staff has to fail for that very simple item because they're either giving us a wrong project with the wrong addressing to it, especially for termite treatment. They're giving us a termite treatment on another house that they did a few weeks back, and it's imperative that you look at that information and you provide the correct information. This way, it helps the CO team expeditiously get through your CO checklist, so we can get those final inspections scheduled the following day.
Okay, and it just looks like there's a little bit at the same attendee is just adding on and saying, I email the permit department, they say it's in the queue to be reviewed. And then also I submit an engineer letter, which sits in review for weeks, and then I emailed and it's told that it's in the queue. This is for a seawall. If you're having an issue with a particular permit, please reach out right now to Bogdan. His email's on the presentation, and he'll be able to kind of sort this out. I think that will probably help some there. Question about FEMA. Recently, some permits have had holds. Sometimes it seems they get rejected in review, and sometimes they go through, the permit gets issued. Will this hold cause issues down the line, or does it mean the hold was just an informative one?
So there's a couple different things going on. There were properties that were identified by FEMA specifically, that we put holds on those specific parcels until we were able to complete the city's investigation into unpermitted work at the over 200 properties that were identified by FEMA. After the code hearings about a week and a half ago, the vast majority of those holds were removed as each case was presented to the special magistrate. However, there's also inspection holds for projects in the special flood hazard area for permits that require a FEMA floodplain review and the submission of a FEMA packet. So Shane can speak a little bit on that. We have been hearing that the current FEMA packet is not clear. It's an older version of the packet. We are working on revising and streamlining that process. We thank everyone for their flexibility and for trying to complete the documentation to the best of their ability. But Shane, do you have anything to add on the FEMA packet process or the inspection holds for the push button permits?
Yeah, just ping pong off of Matt said, we have push button permits that are out there right now. Your roofing, your AC components, those are critical, that they are push buttons. So even though that they're push button are getting approved, we have to put a hold on that property to make sure that we get a review on an SDSI packet to verify prior to you starting construction that you are not triggering the substantial damage determination. That being said, just to touch on flood in general, right now how we perform our determinations of compliance is any and all permits dating back to the storm event, meaning from September 9th, 2028 of 2022 to present. We look at all documents, be it substantial damage, substantial improvement, dating back. So if you've had 2 or 3 applications for different scopes of work, let's talk a re-roof, windows and doors, and now you're coming in for a remodel, it's imperative that we get these reviews done to try to help advise you in advance that you are nearing or potentially crossing that threshold. If you hit that 50%, we have to stop you and advise that your structure is going to have to be elevated or demoed and rebuilt. So it's critical that you pay attention to dating back from current to 9/28/2022 from the storm event, that we look at all substantial damage and all substantial improvements, in that if there's daisy chaining going on, and in certain cases we end up ourselves because we have different permits for different things, but with that daisy chaining, we have to look at all of the information being provided to verify compliance. And again, pay attention to that when you have multiple permits, because you could potentially trigger that 50%. And FEMA is strict on that item, and that's why we're going through this exercise right now. And we need to make sure that we are following our procedures to make sure that FEMA is in compliance.
Okay, we got time for a couple more questions. Installing gas tanks and running gas lines, when will we be able to attach a subcontractor to a contractor's permit if their permit states a piece of equipment will be attached to gas?
So this is if you're referring to a trade permit, the trade permit wouldn't have a subcontractor attached to it for any reason. If you have installing a LP tank and gas lines, that would have to be done by the license holder. If he's using other people to assist him, that's still under his license. It wouldn't be a subcontractor attached.
Well, I think that question's coming down to, we have a house that's new construction, and a private subcontractor, electrical, plumbing, mechanical. Is the gas a part of that?
Separate.
It would be separate.
Yeah,
So
LP
that
tank's
gas LP tank is considered separate, even though it's attaching to the equipment on the inside. It is a separate permit that has to be processed as a trade permit.
Okay, and just a follow-up to the FEMA section that we just went over for getting the elevation certificate survey, is there specific or recommended resources, contacts in getting those?
If you have a question for getting the elevation certificate, is there a specific or recommended resource or contacts to get those? Are you requesting a copy of something that may be on record? Or is it that you're looking to get a elevation certificate performed? If that's the case, then you want to reach out to your surveyor as they perform those types of services. In regards.
Sounds like, yeah, they might be wanting to get one that's on file or something. That's what it would seem like.
City clerk would have, anything that we have on file would be through the city clerk.
They can, make a public records request to the city clerk's office for anything that's in their records. The good news is that we are transitioning to a new floodplain management software. Trust us, this one will go smoother than EnerGov, I promise. But because it's fully web-based, and what it's going to allow us to do is actually record all elevation certificates and like substantial improvements, substantial damage information. We actually started going live with it probably about 5 months ago, or are working through implementation. But I'd say probably within the next 6 months, maybe 4 months, anyone will be able to go online and publicly access elevation certificate information for each property within the city. So that will make it a lot smoother to gather that information, Mr. Adams. At this point, the clerk's office is your best bet for anything historical that's already on record.
Okay, and I see, Marty, I think we answered your question about when you're referring to the Village of Estero.
For the backflow certification, that you'll want to reach out to the utilities department to address. Unfortunately, that's outside the scope of development services and is completed by the utilities department. So I would contact utilities administration. We've also heard multiple comments regarding that certification. So I would get in contact with Jeff Pearson's office with the utilities department.
Okay, you guys, thank you so much. And if you have other questions, that we didn't get to, please feel free to reach out to myself or any of the city staff. I will be sending out this video along with the presentation that the city put together and the DST report, which refers to the building, the permits, the amount of time they take, and just some charts and information on that and the inspections. And I appreciate you guys, Matt, Bogdan, Shane, for providing that information. Great information, great questions and answers here. And we look to have these kind of on a regular basis. So hopefully like in another month or so, we'll have another webinar on some other topics. But thank you guys so much for attending. And again, please reach out to me if you have any questions.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.